Hey guys, welcome back to the channel where today I will be continuing the story that I began in my last video, which is the whole saga of my first publishing attempt, my whole adventure of being published and then not really being published, being on YouTube, not really being on YouTube, then being back, how it went down, and where it went wrong. So before I get into it, I would highly recommend watching the first video first, just to get all of the context of the story, where it began. I will put a card somewhere up here. I will also put a link in the description below and put it at the end of the video so that you have lots of ways to find it. Now, where did I leave off? I had hybrid published my first young adult fantasy novel, and it hadn't really gone that well because of things that I had done wrong or things that I maybe hadn't done to the best of my ability. So I was deciding to tackle it again, this time to revise my original manuscript and to try and query it to agents to try and go down the traditional publishing route. So once again, High School Nikki just dove into querying with minimal research. I probably did so many things wrong. I'm sure the agents that got my queries were just laughing at me or just annoyed with me. But I did feel better about the story that I was querying because, again, it was a revised version of my original draft. It was getting a lot stronger, but in hindsight, I can now see that it's nowhere near as strong as, say, it is today after revising it even more. So even my revisions were a little bit of a rush job because I was so eager to get to querying. I didn't just put everything on pause, take a step back, and take my time to make the story as good as it could be. I still was sort of rushing that improvement process, which is not really how revising works. Querying really did feel like my second chance though. I mean, after my first sort of experience with hybrid publishing where things didn't go as well as I would have liked, and I didn't do a lot of things as well as I could have done them. So querying felt like an opportunity to sort of make good on that and to potentially get the story where I wanted it to go, even though it hadn't gone that way the first time. Then I met a friend who became a real writing inspiration for me, not just for writing, but for lots of other things. And she really suggested that I start an AuthorTube channel. At first I was like, haha, that's funny. I couldn't think of anything that I wanted to do less than that. But once I started thinking about it more and more, the idea kind of appealed to me. I don't know if I just wanted to see if I could do it or to prove to myself that I could do it, but the more I thought about it, the more I kind of wanted to give it a try. So I did. I mean, I started the channel, I had a resident editor and videographer to do all the technical stuff for me, which was amazing. I dove into AuthorTube, and I absolutely hated it. Hated it. Seriously, I was so uncomfortable. It just didn't feel like me at all. I was way out of my element. And then on top of that, you have that extra sort of awkwardness in that you started the channel to promote your hybrid published book, but then I wasn't really promoting it anymore. I was trying to move on from that, so I was sort of pulling it down from my social media and basically trying to pretend that it hadn't really happened, so now you don't really have a reason to have a YouTube channel. Very, very awkward. Then, this is part of the saga, so I should mention this. That summer, I participated in a virtual writers conference, which I've never done before. I've never been to a real in-person writers conference before. This was only virtual because of everything that was going on in the world at the time, but I thought that that was a pretty good way to ease into the whole writers conference idea, and it totally was. It was so valuable. I learned a lot. I got to hear from some really cool speakers, and the main reason why I actually signed up for it was because this conference, and probably all other writers conferences, offered an opportunity to pitch your idea, pitch your story to editors or agents or publishers. I didn't have a lot of experience with pitching, but I thought it was a really great way to practice, so I did a bunch of research and I made my pitches, and to be honest, I actually felt pretty solid about them. Like, could they have been better? If they weren't my first try, probably. I know I did make some rookie mistakes, but all in all, I felt pretty solid about the way that I was presenting my story, so that is a plus. The people that I pitched to, for the most part, were super sweet, super gracious. They gave me feedback where I really needed it. They encouraged me. One person that I talked to actually sort of gave me the impression that there might be a place for a story like mine at the publisher that she was representing. So that was really encouraging, and I'm still kind of holding that publisher in the back of my mind for future. One of the people I talked to, and this is not to bash this agent because they were, again, very, very helpful, just the conversation was a little less encouraging in that they essentially told me that I had spent way too much money on publishing for what I got and painted this pretty doom and gloom picture. I tried to be really, really thankful for the experience afterwards, but I mean, I was kind of a mess. I mean, I was almost in tears over the Zoom call. And when it was over, I really tried to just by force of will make it a positive experience. But I have to be honest, I was feeling pretty demoralized and just so naive and stupid and all the self-deprecating feels. But this agent did offer some feedback. They did offer to help me out. Nothing ended up coming of that, but I really did appreciate the offer and the concern, and some of the feedback that this person gave me helped me to figure out what kind of routes I want to try out in the future, helped me to sort of pin down, okay, so what works for me and what should I just not even bother trying. But in the background, I'm also doing YouTube, and I hate it, and I don't even really know why I'm doing it anymore. First year rolled around, and I decided to take it as sort of an excuse to abandon ship. I kept YouTube going for a couple months in, but partway through I decided, you know what, this is not working for me. I'm not enjoying this. This is just too much. I decided to take a little break from it. I wasn't sure if I was going to ever end up coming back. I called it a hiatus, but to me, it kind of felt like it was the end. That actually ended up lasting only about 6 months before I felt God telling me that it was time to hop back on and give it another try. I do want to pause here because I feel like I've been painting a very bleak picture. And on one hand, yes, this is what happened. I mean, it was a little bit of a mess. But on the other hand, there was a lot of good that came out of that whole experience, and God was there with me the entire time. So many blessings, so many God hugs. There were so many times that He just came through for me, that He inspired the creative process, that He used situations to build my faith and remind me just how blessed I am. I also just, in that time, especially in the hiatus from YouTube, found so much peace and just got so much closer to a place of actual surrender, where I was actually able to say, like, maybe I'm not supposed to write. And as much as that's a difficult thought, in that time that I could just get closer to God and not have to worry about all these extra things, I really was able to get closer to that place where I could say, you know what, maybe this isn't the path that you want me on, and that's okay. And it's a huge step for me because, you know, writing it's my one thing. It's the thing that I really want to do, as I'm sure that you guys can totally understand. But the closer I got to that place and the more real that statement came, like, Lord, thy will be done. It's okay with me, whatever you want me doing, the more peace I found and the less doom and gloom I felt about my whole writing adventure. In a nutshell, God has used this whole experience to just strengthen my faith, bring me closer to Him, and just stretch me in like the absolute best way. I think that brings us to springtime. This would be roughly 6 months after I sort of stepped back from YouTube, took a break from that, which was good. I mean, I was in school, so it gave me more time to focus on my studies and all of that good stuff. There came a point where it was just really, really sort of bugging me and on my mind that maybe I should do it again. Like, I kind of want to do it again, and it wouldn't leave me alone. It just felt like it was not me that was having that thought. It really felt like God was laying it on my heart that, you know what, you should give this another try. Maybe I was in a better place at the time, and it was time to step out. And on that note, I'm just so thankful that over the past little while, and even throughout that whole experience, I felt like God was just flipping switches in me, making me braver and cutting out some of those fears and some of those insecurities that were really holding me back from doing things that I needed to do. Even with, say, the blog or the social media, I am actually enjoying it a lot more now, especially the blog. I love the blog. I love sharing some of the messier parts of my journey, some of the things I'm struggling with. I love trying to encourage other people, even when I'm struggling, because often that just ends up encouraging me. And more, instead of this pressure to put forward like this perfect face, even on the blog, on social media, or especially on YouTube, is sort of fading, and it's being replaced by this desire to just be open and to use those platforms to share messy, nerdy, in love with Peter Pan, kind of weird Nikki in ways that will hopefully encourage people and uplift them and motivate people like you to continue following on the path that God has put you on. Because the thing is, I don't know if this is something you've struggled with, but it definitely is something that I have struggled with. I am not on my own timeline, I am on God's. I know when I had my first sort of publishing escapade and you put all that time into it and things don't go the way you want them to go, you can look back on that time and just feel like, wow, like those are years wasted. Now I'm behind. There are people that are already, published or big names and I'm still straggling and I'll never get that back, and now it's all over. And I have to remind myself that like, wow, a couple years in the grand scheme of things is nothing. Really, a couple years, God's just up in heaven going, oh honey, that is itty bitty thinking. I've got you, I've got plans. And those plans might not look exactly like what my dreams for my publishing career would be. Will there be any resemblance to my dreams? Maybe not. I would venture to say probably not. But ultimately, I want to be like Nathaniel in The Chosen, who I talked about in the last video, so make sure you watch the last video, where he had dreams, he had things that he wanted to use his gifts for, but when God came to him and said, hey, look, I want to use your gifts, but for something different, he said, okay, I'm down, I will follow you. And that is what I want to be doing. I want to be flexible, I want to be open to God's plan, and even if that plan has nothing to do with what my dreams looked like, I want to be ready for that adventure because that adventure is definitely going to be better than whatever I had in mind. And yes, that's a little scary, but it's also just super, super exciting. And all in all, I don't think I would have reached this point if I hadn't gone through that whole sort of messy adventure with my first hybrid publishing experience. So I'm really, really thankful to that, for sort of opening my eyes to the fact that I can't do this by myself and that my plans might not be the best plans. I need to be able to follow God's and to be open to whatever He brings me through because there is a reason for everything. To those of you who read the Heir of Ariad and liked it or even loved it, I love you guys, you are the best. I'm really sorry that you're not going to get your sequel anytime soon. I love it too. I'm still working on it, I'm enjoying working on it, and I'm honestly loving it more and more the more I work on it. The dream is to get the full story out there one day for you to enjoy, but I don't really know when that's going to happen or if that's going to happen, and I guess you and I are just going to have to see what happens. So thank you so much for being patient with me to this point, and I really, really hope that one day I will be able to reward that patience with the entire story. And I'm not going to rush it, because I've tried that and it doesn't really work. No more rushing. It does not need to happen in my time. I am going to work on whatever God puts in front of me to work on. I'm going to let Him do the inspiring. I'm going to let Him do the guiding. Let me know which things I should prioritize and which things it might be time to shelve, dare I say it. I'm not going to try and speed through the process. I'm going to try and enjoy the adventure, journey before destination. If I have any Stormlight Archive fans out there, that was for you. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed hearing the entirety of the story, and I hope that this is an encouragement to you, because it definitely is an encouragement to me to look back and see that even in the messiest times, the times that felt the most like failures, I can now see God working in me and in my projects to point me towards something that I think is going to be even better. Feel free to like and subscribe and comment if you have any thoughts to share, and as always, do not forget to spend some time in the clouds today.